Hi everyone, it's James here. Welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to do a video and I haven't quite worked out the title yet, but it's basically an outgrowth from a couple of videos I've done in recent times, one only a few days ago actually, about artists where I've only got CDs, no records. So I thought to myself, well, what's the opposite of that? Let's do something where I don't have anything on CD, but I do have at least one vinyl record. And then I thought, well, let's try and make it more extreme. Let's try and make it more challenging. Let's try and do a thing where I show 10 records and I don't have anything on CD by those artists. So I found this quite interesting. I mean, this continuing thread all about CDs and records, I think it's interesting for people of my generation, the people who were around in the 80s buying music as the transfer happened between vinyl and CD, and lots of us stopped buying records and started buying CDs. Some people junked their vinyl. I never did that. Some people did, moved to CD, and then for years and years CD was all we bought, and then at some point down the line we rediscovered the joys of vinyl, started buying records again. Some of us continued buying CDs as well as the records, which is my situation. I've never really stopped buying CDs. I've cut down a lot in more recent years. So I thought, okay, let's see, why would I have records then by artists where I don't have any CDs? And let's see if we can work that one out. So yeah, let's see let's see where this goes. Excuse me. Right, so I've got 10. 10 is always the magic number, so let's make a start. This actually was slightly more challenging than I thought it was going to be. I went along the shelves and I kept pulling things out thinking, oh yeah, I don't have any CDs, and then I think, oh no, I've got a greatest hits, or I've got one album somewhere. So I was really strict with myself. I mustn't own anything by them on CD, not even a burnt CD, you know, like back in the day when you used to burn albums onto CD from the library. I mustn't own anything on CD by them. So anyway, play along if you want to jump on this and do a video, or just leave some comments below reflecting on what you have, what you don't have. That would be good fun. So let's start with this one. This is Jeff Beck and Wired. This is, I think, his first solo album, maybe. So yeah, Jeff Beck was not somebody, I mean, this is what's going to be a common theme through these really. When I was buying CDs, the main period of me buying CDs would have started in the late 80s and went all the way through, well, through to now really, although nowadays I do buy mainly records again. But Jeff Beck was just not an artist who was particularly on my radar back when I was in my 20s. Not the sort of music I was listening to. It would never have occurred to me to buy a CD. There's something about Jeff Beck and, you know, getting into collecting classic records. I mean, obviously, you know, a great fusion album and a great fusion artist produced by George Martin, somebody who has drifted into my sphere of attention in the last few years from being in the vinyl community really. And I've got at least 2 or 3 of his records, nothing on CD. I don't think I would ever bother buying a CD really, but anyway, that's the first one. And again, this one, a band I was never into back in the 80s. They were not my cup of tea at all. I picked up the record after discovering the VC, and really it was just through listening to people extolling them. I think Graham Watson at Cracking Vinyl might have been a reason that I finally picked this record up. But there were a couple of people. We're going back probably about 5 years now. So this is The Cult and their album Electric. And I thought it was a great cover actually. I thought it was one that was probably worth owning on vinyl. And as I said, it was just one of those records after I discovered the VC about 7 years ago. This is one that kept coming up all the time. I'd never really listened to The Cult, and never really taken much interest in that style of music, that kind of alternative, heading into goth music in the 80s and 90s. It was not my cup of tea really. Having said that, I was always into hard rock. So when I heard the descriptions of this, I figured that it would be, you know, up my street, broadly speaking. I'm not crazy about this record, but I do think it's got, you know, it's got something. I'm not very impressed. There's a cover version on here, isn't there, of a track which is it Born to Be Wild, which I don't think is a patch on the original, but it's just one of those records. I do feel like it should be in the collection. It is a collection keeper, but yeah, The Cult is not really a band that I was ever into, and therefore never picked it up on CD. And so long-term viewers of my channel will know I had a bit of an issue with this guy going back through the years, Paul Heaton, who I took against back in the 90s when he made some rude comments about, it was mainly about the Beatles actually, but a couple of other bands that I was really into. He gave a couple of really pugnacious interviews and slagged a couple of artists off that I was really into, and I thought, oh well, screw him then. And I never got into anything by Paul Heaton, never bought the House Martins, never bought Beautiful South, just never got into him. Again, in more recent years, in the last maybe 4 or 5 years, I decided, just on the evidence really, people talking about them. Obviously, I knew the singles, so I knew what the music was like. And I picked up both their records now. When they popped up, I think I bought them both either from Oxfam or from the Heightside record stand here in Lancaster. When they popped up in really nice condition, I just thought to myself, right, it's time to bury the hatchet between me and Paul. Great songwriter, obviously, and the two House Martins albums are just, I suppose, cornerstones of alternative 80s pop music, really. Great stuff, but yeah, never owned them on CD. And would I pick them up on CD now? Maybe if I saw them in Oxfam going cheap for, you know, like £1 or two, perhaps I would. But obviously I'm on Spotify these days, so I might be able to resist it. I mean, that's the main reason for buying stuff on CD that you've already got on vinyl, isn't it? It's because you can therefore listen to it on the move. You know, I have a CD Walkman, and you know, you can enjoy the music in a slightly less rigid environment if you have it on CD. So I might pick up the House Martins on CD. We'll have to see. Right, next one. Again, an artist who I was never into back when I was growing up, and the band he was in I was never into. It had never occurred to me to buy a CD, but in the last maybe 7 years, I think I dipped my toe into one of his records. I forget which was the first one I bought. It might have been this one. Ian Hunter. This is his debut solo album, from What the Hoople, of course. What the Hoople as well, in fact, are a band that I've never owned on CD either. But now I pick up Ian Hunter records whenever I see them. I've just picked up another one actually, which will be in my next Vinyl Finds video. They're quite common in the wild. You can pick them up cheap in Oxfam. I see them down at the market stand quite a lot. I'm not always in the best shape, but I do now always pick them up when I see them. Yeah, Ian Hunter, a great artist really. And What the Hoople are a bit of a forgotten band. Well, they're not forgotten, but they're not viewed often as top tier from the period that they were in, but they made some cracking records, and Ian Hunter's solo catalogue is a little bit patchy, but he did do some really good records, and that's one of them, his debut. What was the date of this? I've absolutely no idea when this came out. Somebody will put me right. It's not on the back. Oh yes, it is, 1975. There we go, What the Hoople. No, Ian Hunter from What the Hoople. Nothing on CD. Next one, another band back in the 80s, 90s. I was just never into them. I don't know why, really. I just didn't take any interest. And to be fair, I've never actually bought a record by Japan either. I've got all the Japan records, but courtesy of a friend of mine, not even a friend, my friend's wife. I got a phone call from a friend of mine about 5 years ago now to say he was junking all his records and would I like to come over and have a look at them and take what I wanted for free. So I said yes, of course. And I went over there and discovered it wasn't only him that was getting rid of his records, his wife was also junking all of hers. So I managed to acquire all the Japan albums in one fell swoop, a band that I'd never listened to. I might have bought Tin Drum on vinyl already, because that used to be a bit of a charity shop staple. I might have had that already, but anyway, I acquired the Japan back catalogue in one fell swoop. But I've never owned anything by them on CD, and at some point I will do a video on Japan, because I think they are quite an interesting band. And David Sylvian obviously is quite an interesting artist. I've heard a couple of his. Actually, I do have one David Sylvian album on CD, but I don't have any Japan on CD, so that's fine. Next one, bit of classic krautrock. So Can, who are, I suppose, the ultimate krautrock band. I have them. I've got records by them on CD and on vinyl. The same records, actually. But Noi, I've never picked up anything by them on CD, and this is the only record by them I've ever found in the wild. Is this their debut album? I think it might be. I picked this up from Oxfam in Leeds years ago. It was £20, which I think is quite a bit of a cheap price to get this record for now. I don't know how much you'd pay for one of these now, an original copy. Yeah, just never got round to it. I've always thought to myself, I must get the Noi albums, because I'm sure they're easy to find on CD, but I've just never Never got round to it, even though I think this is a really good record. There's the sound of a pneumatic drill on here, I seem to remember. This is a record I've not listened to for quite some time, so I need to go back to this one. But Noi really are a classic band to pick up on CD, because I would imagine their records are quite hard to come by. I don't know for certain. Again, this one falls into the category of just a band that I was never into back in the 80s. They were not really my kind of thing, I suppose. Although it's odd, because I did always like synth music, always a big fan of Thomas Dolby. But for some reason, OMD, Orchestral Manoeuvres in the Dark, had never really drifted onto my radar as a band to, you know, buy their records. I always enjoyed their stuff on the radio, but it never really occurred to me to pick up anything on CD. When I got back into collecting vinyl seriously, about 7 or 8 years ago, actually more like 10 years ago now, I discovered that OMD were quite a common band really to find in the racks of whatever, you know, charity shops, record fairs. I think most of the records I've got by them were picked up in Oxfam. Is that true anymore? I'm not sure if OMD are quite such a cheap band to collect now, but I've got at least the first maybe four albums by them, and another one from later in their career, all picked up dirt cheap. But this is this their second record? Could be mistaken. A band that I actually now really do enjoy. If I found their stuff on CD in Oxfam going cheap, I probably would pick it up actually, just to have it. But yeah, they were not a CD band for me. And again, this falls into the category of a band whose records or CDs I never bought. I was never into them. This is the Proclaimers. This is another case where a friend of mine was getting rid of a load of his records. My friend Pete, who phoned me up a couple of years ago now and said, I've got a big box of records, come over, take what you want. I did buy them from him. I uploaded a video about those records. I think it was Christmas before last, or maybe it was last Christmas, I can't remember. And this and the other Proclaimers record, the one where they're in profile on the cover, I forget the name, they were just both in the box. And you know, I would have got them for absolutely peanuts. I bought a load of records off him for about £40-50, and these two were in the box, so I picked them up. This is Sunshine on Leith, containing the immortal I'm Gonna Be 500 Miles, which I used to play actually. I used to play that on drums in a band that I was in, so I figured why not, let's get it, but not on CD. And then this band again, I never bought their records, I never bought their CDs, never was into anything that they did really. This is Slade, of course, maybe because of just the sheer ubiquity of the Christmas hit, which got rammed down our throats every year at Christmas, year after year. It still does, of course. So I never really considered Slade really as a band to get into or buy. So yeah, again, I suppose they're not a particularly difficult band to get into in terms of buying records. I know Nick's Vinyl Butty buys their stuff on vinyl quite regularly. He seems to find it. Richard McCook, of course, big Slade fan, has all their catalogue, I think, on record and probably CD, knowing Richard. But yeah, I've never bought anything by them on CD. Not sure if I ever would, but I've got quite a few records by them now, and obviously a classic band. And what a great cover. This is a record I've actually owned twice through the years. This is an upgrade copy. So there we go, Slade. And finally, again, I'm going to say another band that I was never into. When I was a student, there was one big song that they had which used to get played all the time in the union bars and the clubs that we used to go to, and I got heartily sick of it. It just never occurred to me to pick up anything by them. So the song in question, of course, was The Whole of the Moon. I can't tell you how big a song that was. I came to uni here in Lancaster in '89, and not sure when that song came out, a couple of years before maybe, but I mean, you just couldn't get away from it. It was one of the most played songs, and just got heartily sick of it, so I never checked out the Waterboys. In more recent times, watching vinyl community videos, hearing people talking about them, I started to stream their music when I got Spotify, and then started to find their records. I think most of them I picked up from Hideside Records. They're not really, actually no, maybe one of them. I think I picked up A Pagan Place from Oxfam. This one was from Hideside Records, and another couple that I found. A band that I have to be in the mood for, I must admit. I find them a little bit much at times. They've got this really loud, boomy sort of sound, which I do have to be in the mood for. But they're a great 80s band. Mike Scott, bit of a songwriting genius, and this is a bit of a cornerstone record, really, if you're talking about that particular period of British pop music. So, yeah, the Waterboys, only on record, nothing on CD. So, there we go, that's my selection. So let me know, do you have anything similar? Do you have any records in your collection by artists where there's nothing on CD? And let me know about that. Leave a comment, make a video, do what you wilt. Thanks for watching, I'll be back soon. Take care, bye for now.